You finally sat down. The week is done. The tasks are as finished as they will ever be. You are on the sofa with nothing you have to do. And within minutes, there it is, the itch, the low hum of unease. You should be doing something. Your hand reaches for the phone, not for pleasure, but because pure rest feels somehow wrong. You check the email that could have waited. You think about tomorrow. You are technically resting, and you cannot rest. Even your time off has a supervisor now, and it is you. The holiday where you kept half an eye on work. The Sunday that felt like falling behind. Doing nothing should be the easiest thing in the world. And it has become almost impossible without a trickle of guilt running underneath. So here is what I want to show you. Where that guilt actually comes from. Why it is a belief and not a truth. And why rest was never the opposite of a good life, but half of it. Not tips for better relaxing, something older and sturdier. That gives you back a permission you did not realize you had surrendered. The guilt has a logic, and it is worth dragging into the light. Because in daylight, it looks much less convincing. Somewhere along the way, you absorbed an idea that your worth is your output. That every hour is either productive or wasted. That rest is a cost, a pause in the real business of justifying yourself. Something to be earned through enough effort and then taken sparingly, like a ration. Under that belief, rest can never feel clean. Stopping feels like theft. Stillness feels like falling behind in a race that never pauses. So you rest with one foot still in the harness, half working, half checking. And you get neither the work nor the rest, only the guilt of both. Notice, this belief did not come from you. It came from a culture that measures human beings the way it measures machines, by uptime and output. And you have quietly agreed to be graded that way. The guilt you feel on the sofa is not your conscience speaking. It is a borrowed yardstick, doing what borrowed yardsticks do. Now look away from the culture for a moment, and look at life itself. Because life runs on a completely different design. Everything alive pulses. Nothing in nature produces without pause. The breath goes in, and then it goes out. And the out-breath is not a failure of the in-breath. Day works and night restores. The seasons push growth, and then pull everything back into the quiet of winter. And the winter is not the field being lazy. The field lies fallow, so it can yield again. And the closest example is beating in your chest right now. Your heart rests between every single beat. Measured across a day, the heart spends more time in its pause than in its contraction. That resting phase is not downtime. It is when the heart refills. A heart that tried to skip the pause and only contract would not be a productive heart. It would be a dying one. You are built out of these rhythms, all the way down. And yet you have tried to live as though you were the one exception in nature. A creature that only exhales effort and never inhales rest. The exhaustion you feel is not weakness. It is biology presenting the bill. The tradition has a word for the pause, and it treats it with respect. Vishrama, rest, repose, the settling of what was stirred. Not collapse, not laziness, not the guilty scraps of stillness you grab between obligations. A dignified half of the rhythm of being alive. And the Gita is surprisingly blunt on this. It says yoga is not for the one who strains without measure. Yuktahar viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukha. For the one who is moderate in food and recreation, moderate in effort, in sleep, and in waking, this path destroys sorrow. Moderation is the prescription, in effort as much as in indulgence. The tradition never celebrated the grind. It watched people wear themselves hollow, chasing worthiness through effort. And it named that as a way of missing the point, thousands of years before anyone called it burnout. Here is the part the productivity culture has exactly backwards. The visible effort is not where growth happens. It only plants the seed. Muscle is torn in the gym and built in the sleep afterward. What you study is consolidated, not while you cram, but while you rest. The insight you chased all day arrives in the shower, on the walk, the moment you finally stopped hunting it. Because the settled mind can connect what the strained mind cannot. Even the field must lie fallow, or the soil gives out. So rest is not the absence of progress. It is the half of progress that happens quietly, below the surface, and only when you actually stop. Which means the person who never rests is not doing more. They are endlessly tearing and never rebuilding, planting and never letting anything take root. The pause was never stolen from the work. The pause is where the work completes itself. Set the misreading aside cleanly. This is not a case for laziness, and it is not permission to abandon effort. The rhythm has two halves, and the tradition honors both. Full effort, wholehearted, like we said about the work itself. And then full rest, equally wholehearted. What is broken in modern life is not that we work too hard. It is that we do neither half fully. We work distracted by the wish to rest, and we rest poisoned by the guilt of not working. Half in the harness all day, half in the harness all evening, never entirely in either. The cure is not less effort or more effort. It is wholeness in each. Work completely, then stop completely. So 2 things, starting today. First, take 1 hour of legitimate rest, on purpose, declared. Not rest that leaks in around the edges while you feel bad about it. Chosen rest. Phone in another room. No half work. No earning at first. 1 hour where stopping is the point. It will feel uncomfortable, and the itch will come. Let it. You are not doing nothing. You are doing the other half of everything. Second, when the guilt arrives, and it will, do not argue with it, and do not obey it. Just name it. This is a belief, not a truth. The belief says your worth is your output. You already know where that yardstick came from, and nothing alive is graded that way. Name it, let it hum, and stay resting. Every time you rest without obeying the guilt, the belief loses a little of its grip. Notice and come back, this time back to the pause. You were never a machine that failed at running constantly. You were a living thing, trying to live without half of life's rhythm. The out-breath is not a weakness of the in-breath. The night is not a failure of the day. The pause between the beats is not the heart falling behind. It is how the heart is able to beat it all. So sit down, all the way down. The guilt you feel is borrowed, and you are allowed to hand it back. Rest was never the reward for a life well worked. It was always the other half of the work, quietly finishing what your effort could only begin.